we go in with all of the other associations,
Right.
with NADA, with the National Auto Auction Association, all of those, we go in collectively where appropriate,
Sure.
and we use the force of the industry. And so you're absolutely correct. Just that alone is
Right.
worth the fees to get into the
Yeah.
state and,
Yeah.
and national.
I wonder if Jeremy can get us an invitation to some of those quarterly CFPB meetings. We would love to.
Just like, yeah.
Can we just hold up
So-
signs
Be a
on the back of
fly
our
on
own
the
wall?
Yeah. I need to ask George. George Spat popped in there and said there's iPhone or Android, there is no sound. So I want to make sure that you guys can hear now, because we do have some people, and just, those of you guys are listening in, please weigh in on whether or not you can hear us, because
Yeah.
I don't want you not to hear us.
Well, because we have so many great things to say.
we have
this
so many
morning,
great
so
things
we
to
want
say. Yeah.
I am used to in my life, being muted.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's just the three of us, will have a conversation. It's all good. We'll verify. We can stop and check.
Oh, wait a second here. It's they're like, hey, it looks like Michelle is scolding Jeremy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's highly possible too.
Yes. We're plugged. We're
We're-
plugged.
Do
It's
we
not
risk
working.
unplugging?
Okay, okay. Thank you, George. There is sound now.
got
Let's
that.
start all over
All
again.
right, let's
Then
start all over again.
That's weird.
Okay, we were talking about
Yeah, we get
like
Yeah,
like
well, yeah,
like
there's
your
a
state
camera.
and
Good
morning,
national
everyone.
organizations, that it's we were sorry guys, there's sound now, so we only missed like 7 minutes,
Right.
so we can go. They probably heard the music to get started, but we were talking about all of the things that are happening on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
And so do you want to just reiterate what it is that's going on there?
Well, Jim asked me what is our definition at
Advocacy.
at NIADA for advocacy, and it's really just about being a voice, making sure that, number one, we understand what's important to our dealers and what's important to the industry, and then taking that and having conversations with the subsequent legislators or state or federal government agencies, but also the regulators. So CFPB, FTC, I mentioned that we have quarterly meetings with the CFPB and with the FTC, and they're two-way conversations, right? We're bringing our information, and they're bringing us their concerns, so that we can really get out ahead of anything we see that's coming down the ramp from their perspective.
Well, and I think we talked about when you joined us in the morning show weeks ago. I think we talked about the matter of education in buy here, pay here, because obviously, unlike a retail dealer, at the buy here, pay here level, we've got different layers. We've got additional layers of responsibility.
A lot, actually.
Yeah. And so we just are mindful that there's an extra level of education that's required. So advocacy and being able to educate dealers to get ahead of that. And then I think for Michelle and myself, we're just always looking for ways to reach those dealers that are out there that aren't plugged in.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd love to see them. Obviously, we know why it makes sense for them to write a check to their station, become a member there. That membership includes their membership at the national level. So we'd like to see that check and get more involved. We know that it's also an interesting and difficult in some ways time for buy here, pay here, certainly a big period of adjustment and correction. And so now it just means all the more reason for dealers to be plugged into this. And so Michelle and I are always trying to figure out ways to, reach new folks.
Yeah, you bring up a really valid point. The buy here, pay here dealers are such a large spot and piece of the independent channel. But there are additional things that you have to think about because you're a finance company. And so therefore you have to follow finance regulations and finance guidelines.
Yep.
And there are buy here, pay later laws that you have to, follow and understand. And that's really kind of where the education comes in from the state and the national associations, is to really be able to say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Buy here, pay here dealer, here are the things you need to consider because you're choosing to go out and invest capital, get capital, but here are the things you need to pay attention to.
Right.
And some of them are, I get it, a pain, but those are and those are the things that we hear from dealers. That's why events like this are so important, because it really starts to fuel us, to give us the power to be able to go back and say, okay, here's what we're hearing from our members to the state and federal agencies.
Yeah, that's so important. And we just certainly recognize the importance of that and the reason that, dealers need to, we highly recommend always that dealers make time to get involved in that, even if they just participate financially, and if that was all their dollars did, then that would be worth it.
Right.
There's a lot of other benefits associated with being there. This event being among
Yeah.
them. If dealers can choose to make that investment, and I tell dealers, Jeremy, I've said it at NIADA at the Vegas convention. I said, if I asked the room, if a dealer would buy a car for $2,500 when they thought they could sell it for $5,000 or $6,000, show of hands, and of course they all said yes, I would do that. I said, well, why wouldn't we do the same thing for education?
Right.
Yeah, it's not as tangible, but we know that we should be able to take away at least that much value in what we spend on education coming to an event like this. I'm just picking numbers at 2,500. I'm just saying, what should we be prepared to spend?
I think it's a phenomenal point because, look, that, spending that amount of money to come to an event like this,
Mhm.
being involved in your state and national associations. So it takes that, that $2,500 worth of profit in your scenario.
Mhm.
Maybe it takes it to $2,800.
Right.
Maybe it takes it to $3,000.
Right.
Or you learn something that's going to allow you. I tell dealers all the time, part of our responsibilities is not only to help you make more money, to profit, to grow.
Sure.
Our other responsibility is to show you how to keep it.
Sure.
Right.
Good.
And by keeping it, that means understanding the regulations, the laws, everything that you need to abide by to ensure that you're not going to get fined by a local or federal agency.
Right. Yeah. That's the important step. And then, we really live more in the operational space. Like I'm sure I could walk through this hall today, put a microphone to dealers and say, are you taking back an idea from this event that's worth at least $5,000 in your business? The odds are they'd all say yes, because if they sit in those workshops, there's takeaway after takeaway from these workshops. And as you know, we sat at a lunch table with somebody and you'll get an idea, just over lunch from somebody that is a great takeaway and high value.
We spent so much time looking at what did we need to do from an educational standpoint here,
Mhm.
what subjects, what topics, and then we went out and actively found dealers that actually could talk on that stuff. So we've got one of the biggest things that you'll see that is different at this show is that for every person like myself, that's up on the stage, we have a dealer up on the stage with them because dealers want to hear from dealers.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, standing up stage, but it's about that networking opportunity. You make lifelong friends here where you can text somebody and just say, hey, I'm having this issue with my dealership. I met you at, BHPH Super Forum. What's your idea?
Yeah.
And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of value with having those dealer panels because when it's a vendor panel or whatever, that they aren't in the trenches as much. And so it's like they see things from a very different perspective than the dealers do. And so you're getting some, like you said, real life story and experience. And this is what worked for me.
And I think one of the important things talking about pushing the state and, the importance of being involved in the state and the local and the national associations. I think everybody needs to, and we need to do a better job from a national perspective, demonstrating this. Every single person that sits on our board of directors is a current dealer. So this is an association that is built by dealers and driven by dealers, right? So when we start to think about what do dealers, we have a dealer body that we can go to and say, okay, you're running your business every single day. Being a board of directors is just an ancillary thing that you've chosen to do to get more involved and to have a little bit larger voice. But what are you experiencing in your dealerships? And then that drives us as well as our dealer councils to be able to put education sessions really powerful and meaningful that somebody will take back and impact their business right away.
No, of course. I think these are all that we certainly see, from our perspective. And we know, and we knew many of them before they became board members, but we know many of the dealers that sit on the national board, and we've visited their dealerships and we kind of see what happens. And I think the big thing there is just, you've got people that are committed, they're devoted to try to make the industry better and do what they can to help other dealers. So again, it's just one more reason that we think, you got all these folks out there working on your behalf. If you're a small dealership in Indiana and not currently plugged in, then there's benefit to you to getting involved in that. And eventually maybe they play a leadership role. In the meantime, not prepared to step in and play leadership, and you're not prepared to, attend the events, you can write that small check each year, whatever report in there that way.
Yeah.
And that's going to also provide you other resources.
Sure. One final thing I just want to say about our board of directors being dealers. A lot of people think, well, yeah, those are all the big dealers, because they've got the opportunity. The president of our board is a 15 to 20 car a month dealer right now.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got some large, but the majority of we've got them all sizes.
Right.
Our president-elect who's coming in as a 30, 40 car guy. And so, it's important to understand that dealers of all sizes have a voice, have multiple voices sitting forward, because we realize that not everybody's going to sell 100 cars a month or 50 cars a month.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we need to have a voice for those ones that are selling 10, 15, 20 cars a month, or 5 to 10 a month as well.
Right.
Absolutely. And one of the things I have to about the state organizations is, we deal a lot with brand new in the industry dealers, and for many of them, they aren't in a position to be able to leave the dealership for 3 days to attend a conference, because if they do, they shut their operation down. And, we have talked to some that come that it's like, we're closed. And so most people really can't. And so the states, I love some of the things that they put together, their town halls or whatever. It's like, come in an evening.
Yeah.
So let's do something local that allows you to get together and meet other dealers in the area and all of the stuff.
I think you bring up a phenomenal point, Michelle, because it's not, the association isn't just coming to, Vegas or coming to Austin and going to the shows and to the conventions. Sure. There are so many other ways to engage on the state, going to lunch and learns, going to, evening, get-togethers within your state or your local chapter. And then, from a national perspective, we travel all around the country. I mean, and we hold town halls, we hold virtual town halls, we hold, educational sessions. We have an entire 12-month calendar of education sessions, all for next year, that we've already planned out.
Nice.
And it doesn't require you to leave your dealership.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's an important piece.
And one of the things I see about these events is, and I've said, because I've done these now for 20 plus years, and these events, and you see these dealers, and it's been my experience that a lot of the most successful dealers that I know are at these events consistently. They're often on the front row, in the educational sessions. And I think, what lesson are we to draw from that? We can all draw our own. It's like, is the dealer successful because they're at the event? It's like, what is the theme there when you think about how they become successful is through education often, and staying on the cutting edge of education, and not because our friend Tommy Brandis says that we need to explain.
Tommy was supposed to be here, and he
able
to this morning. So
being a car dealer this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, of all things to do.
at work.
So he was dealing with stuff back at his dealership in Pennsylvania. But Tommy says, he's got this quote that we've started to lean on lately, where he says, when you think you know it all, you're on the road to disaster, or whatever the end of that is. But it's like, when you think you know it all, you think you got it all figured out. So we see that obviously in the circles that we work with, and dealers that are coachable, that are eager to learn, or prepared to, to adapt. And there's a lot of stuff to learn right now. There
is. I mean, look, everybody keeps saying, well, when's the new normal going to change? Or when's the normal going to be back? Yeah.
We're in it.
I think we are in a constant changing evolution of this business.
Absolutely.
And I tell my teams all the time, at the station, like, the answer cannot be, well, that when I ask you, hey, why don't we do this? Or, hey, have you thought about this? Or, hey, can we this way? If the answer is, well, that's just not the way we've always done it. So that's why that can't be the answer. And it's the same way from a dealer. I took the same approach when I was a dealer. If you're constantly just doing things the same way that you've always done, then either one, you're going to get yourself caught in a trick bag when regulations change and you're not aware of it. Or number two, you're going to fall behind significantly, because everybody else is going to be learning new ways or trying new ways. Some will work and some won't.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But try something different. Right.
Yeah.
I can think of at least 3 ways right now that the buy here, pay here industry is significantly different. One is cost of cars. So the math is different. The math behind what we do, and business model itself is shifting. The other is marketing. We're in a
very
little marketing is the thing. And so dealers are having to adapt to how to communicate
Sure.
with their consumer and get them to dealership, obviously. And then the other one's just regulatory. I mean, we got all these regulatory shifts, and so being able to adapt to that is important to be aware. And like I say, those are just three big ones. There are plenty of others.
Well, and I love one of the things that Jim and I talk about an awful lot is, and we've mentioned to some of our other friends in the space, is that at the conferences we see the Golden 500. It's like it's very frequently. I mean, the dealers that come because education means something, and they really get what it is that's important to stay ahead of a lot of these things. And so one of the things that has been driving Jim and I with doing the podcast, a lot of things that we're trying to get out there to do, is how do we capture that other segment of all the dealers, because there's so much danger in not knowing what you don't know.
Right.
And so we were mentioning last night, we were chatting with someone, and it was about safeguards rule. I mean, December 9th, December 9th safeguards rule. So we've been talking a lot about safeguards rule. Texas did a fantastic. Anyone who is listening today and you don't know what the safeguards is, it goes down December 9th. This is a federal regulation, and we've been talking about it, and we've been saying, go to texasdealereducation.com. They have an online course you can take, and you have to take it. And we have had so many people that will reach out to us outside of the podcast that say, I live in Illinois. Do I have to do it?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead and say that.
So it's like, all right, we are tapping into the right market,
Right.
because that we're starting to go past that barrier. And I love it. And we're hoping that we can continue with that, because not only do we want to be able to be something like, that it's like, let's just gather people in and be a voice of, be aware. Here's the things, that you don't know what you don't know. And you may feel like everything is just, it's running, humming very nicely. And you have someone knock on your door that says, ding dong, where's your
cybersecurity policy?
Where's your stuff? And they're like, what? We didn't know. Well, that's not our problem.
Yeah. The FTC is, I can tell you in the conversations I've had with them, certainly the conversations that I've had with Brett, our VP of Legislative Affairs, the answer is not going to be acceptable when you will say, well, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right? The FTC is not going to accept that as an answer when they look at, are you implementing multi-factor authorization? Sure. Are you using your client data?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ensuring that your vendors and your partners are protecting because it's on you as the dealer under this rule. It's not on the vendor. It's not on the partner. And that's so, I mean, and Jeff Martin and TIAD have done a phenomenal job.
They really have
of putting a course together out there that is for everybody, because to your point, it's a federal regulation. It is not a Texas regulation. Yeah. It is a federal regulation.
And I got to say, I can do this, like you in your position, probably less inclined to do this, but being agnostic over here, being a consultant advisor who, our clients are dealers. And so I recognize when I say this, I'm talking to dealers who would be our clients potentially. But see, with dealers, it's the nature of sort of their persona. The typical dealer is it's that whole thing about beg for forgiveness.
Yep.
I'm just going to bull in the china closet. I'm going to march forward. I'm a type A individual. I'm going to just go business to business. And if somebody shows up, I'll just be nice and charm somebody and beg for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And we just know that, in the same way that we're going to handle collections.
We really do have these conversations. It's like,
So, I can say that because I'm trying to help them.
As charmful as, listen to me now, as charming as you may be, it is not going to work with the FTC.
And nor should it.
Right.
Because if we're in the business of collections, like we just know, why write a policy that we're not prepared to enforce?
Right.
So if I'm the FTC, it's the same way. Why introduce any legislation if I'm not prepared to enforce it? And if I show up to enforce it, I didn't know, it's really just not going to be acceptable.
I think you're absolutely right. I think there's two sides of it. The only thing I would add to that is we also seem to think, or will say, they're not going to come to my store.
Right.
I'm too small. They're not going to bother. They're going to go after the big stores. They're going to go after the franchise stores.
We've heard that over and over and over again too.
Wrong.
I think I said this the last time I was on your show.
Go to the FTC's website and
Yeah.
look at the employment ads. 90% of what they're hiring for right now are auditors.
Yeah.
Over 11,000 new postings for auditors.
I think, well, the other thing I ask dealers to go is the FTC website and look at how easy it is for a consumer to file a complaint.
That's exactly
It's
it.
so easy.
And
Push a
I mean,
button.
how many dealerships out there do we know that have a couple of bad reviews? And
just a couple.
Just a couple of bad because in the business that there's going to be some people you're going to piss off a customer at some point or another.
Sure.
And so that won't happen to me. It's like,
but what we've been teaching dealers about Google reviews or reviews of their dealerships for so long is don't ignore it. Like, go respond. Go at least respond. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you didn't, but respond.
Okay. So can I add a caveat to that? We've watched dealers respond in arguing with people about it. And it's like, no. No.
Great point.
Maybe hire somebody to respond.
Right.
Or if you're that type A personality that's never wrong.
Or revert back to what you just said a few minutes ago of being farming.
Yes.
How about try that?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But and we're here to be like fear. The last thing in the world that Jim and I are or want to be or buy into fear mongering.
I agree.
It's we don't even watch the news most of the time because it's like, really. And
the other part of this is that we're not even, whether it's scare tactics or not, the reality is I don't see it as a huge lift. Yes, there's some boxes to check and there's some work to be done, but it's a totally achievable thing to meet the safeguards requirements.
It is.
The challenge becomes with anything. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. The challenge is if you actually read the regulation or you even take some of the training, it seems like it's a deal.
Yeah.
But it's
one bite
really
at a time.
Not.
Yeah.
It is a matter of having a written plan, having a mitigation policy, and that you're protecting the customer's data and putting controls in place to ensure that then continuing that process on down the road and continual training.
The safeguards thing for Texas is just about, we are now fully aware.
Yeah.
It's not about once you're done with this that all the stuff is done, but it's like, here is your homework list. And we actually have a dealer that called us up and they're like, Jim, do we really have to do all of this stuff? It's like, yeah.
Only if you want to keep out of trouble.
But here's the thing.
This isn't a pick and choose situation.
And so like the safeguards, the course is a great way of saying, here's all the stuff you got to do now, go do it. And if you don't want to if you want some help, there are so many great organizations out there that are out there ready to step in and help get the stuff done if you don't want to do it yourself.
Great point. We, ComplyNet, who is
just talked to him last night.
Is a national partner of ours. They put on, one of the things that we did, because we know this is, 1 month out from implementation, on Wednesday at the start of the Super Forum here, he did an entire half-day workshop with that and worked with us to be able to put together a full kind of training manual and stuff to walk away with, to be able to say, okay, now I know. Now, what do I need to do? Right. And so pick up the phone and call your state, call your local, call your national, call us at the National Association. We will put you in contact with either state associates like TIADA, or we'll put you in contact with some of our compliance partners. And yes, maybe it's going to cost a little bit of money, or maybe it's going to take a little bit of time. But again, part of our responsibility is not only to help you make money, but to help you keep that money.
Sure.
And here's the stuff you got to do. Go do it. Right. I mean, it doesn't have to cost you anything extra if you want to put the bandwidth toward. But what we're saying is it has to be done. Yeah. So you choose if you're going to put the bandwidth into it, if you're going to choose someone at your dealership to put the time and the effort into it, or you're going to bring someone in that's going to help you and be like your implementation partner. Yeah. And just really kind of draw all of the things and get it done.
And I would say, we spent a good amount of time yesterday talking to Jeff McCurry with ComplyNet. I've known him for years, and I got a better understanding for what they do. And bottom line is they do have solutions for implementation to help take a team and help walk them through all the stuff. So I think dealers need to know that those solutions are available, just like she alluded to, but I think it's more hands-on than people might think.
You don't have to do it on your own.
No, you don't.
Right? That's the advantage of the state and the national associations is we're there for you. So and we vetted, not anybody can just come and be a national corporate partner with an NIADA.
Right.
We vet them. They go through a vetting process, and then they're approved by our board of directors.
Yeah.
And so when we put out a company like ComplyNet or the Association of F&I Professionals with Shannon, look, they're there because we know that they will stand behind the dealers, and they provide sorts of resources to be able to help you as much or as little as you need it.
Right.
But the important part is whether you want it is irrelevant.
Right.
Irrelevant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, it's everybody in the US of A needs to. And I love, Jim's always telling me, please don't use the word need to. Say, we strongly advise.
advisors.
Well, I got a pass. It's like, you need to. You must.
You kind of have to. Yeah.
It's like, I can get it all out in this one. You need to. I might untrain myself from, saying that, but it's taken him a year and a half to get me to say, well, it's like, okay, it goes, there's we advise, we strongly advise, or we very strongly advise. And usually that's with like very intense eye contact, as in, this is as close as I can get to say you really need to do this. But this one I got,
Better have this done by Tuesday. Yeah.
All I want to know is how many times does she look at you and say, I very strongly advise you, John.
It happens.
We aren't talking about us here.
We've been together long enough. It's all eye contact now.
I'm with you. 19 years with my wife. I completely understand.
That's true. Well,
that's
guys,
a different podcast.
Yeah.
Save that for a different session.
We are out of time, or we could go on for forever. But we'd love to have you back again. You're just so delightful. It's really a great conversation.
I greatly appreciate what y'all do for the buy here dealers. I mean, look, it's a forum that they can listen to. It's a fun environment. This business is so fun.
It really is.
And we try to make it so complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are others trying to make it complicated for us too. But at the end of the day, it's fun. And y'all, going on your podcast and having conversations with you, I think that's an important thing that y'all bring to it.
Well, we enjoy doing it. We expect to continue to do it, and we're just getting started having fun. And it's all about bringing information to dealers. So we're totally enjoying it. We appreciate you this morning.
Appreciate y'all having me.
All right, have a great rest of your day. And for those of you guys who are here at the Super Forum, come and say hello. We'd love to.
Find me in the hallway. Say hello to me.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right. Well, have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Jim.